I'm here with Leonard Carey, CEO and co-founder of Aware Technologies. He's actually Bristol-based, so we caught up a couple of weeks back now, wasn't it, for a coffee? Yeah. Strange concept, face-to-face, but great all the less. So connected with Leonard a few weeks back, spoke over LinkedIn, and I was really interested about what he was doing within IoT and smart home technologies for the whole tech for good. Leonard, do you mind giving us a bit of insight into what you're doing?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me here today. So, I just want to give a bit of a history, really. We've actually, as a business, been really trading since about 2019. But before that, we had this madcap idea around, we're engineers, we're software developers. We've been involved in the Internet of Things and machine to machine from early 90s. And we thought, well, wait a minute, why don't we find a way of doing edge computing on a very, very small device with very, very low power so that we could preserve people's privacy and we could actually find ways to if you like, not monetize it, but find better ways that people can, if you like, trade their data. Because if it's at the edge, then it means that you've got some control over it. So we played with some ideas back in 2018, I think it was. And then it started kind of morphing into what should we do with this technology? We could put it into, managing cold chain of distribution of goods. And then we started talking to people in the housing sector. And we deliberately didn't want to go into the housing sector because we thought, it's councils, it's really difficult.
Yeah, too many technicalities.
Too many technicalities, too many hoops to jump. And then we stumbled across with Leeds Council, and they successfully won a GovTech sponsored project. And GovTech, it's all about finding those startups, innovative companies who can create new technology that's going to, if you like, solve a big societal problem. And the problem that was put in front of us was, could they use our technology to put into people's homes to monitor the heating, the ventilation, the way that it's insulated, and find better ways to alert that actually there's maybe some mould and damp appearing. Maybe that person needs to up their heating, or maybe they're overheating. But find a way for the council to manage their stock better. But also, I think really importantly, is how do you find a way of engaging with tenants more? Mm-hmm. How do you find a way of understanding their lifestyles a bit more, so you can tailor some of the advice so that it's not just a one size fits all. It is about, understanding that person and how they live, and so you can help them live in their homes better. Yeah,
real multi-layered approach, isn't it? So, like you said, there's problems that need to be addressed. You touch then on the whole damp side of it and the mold, and ultimately the respiratory problems that are associated to it. Of course, identify the problem there, and essentially then, how's the tech, relating to that? How is it going to get to that end goal of hopefully making a difference?
Well, we've developed the tech now, and it's taken a while, because what we always wanted to do is make sure that we engage with people. And although I've been in technology for a long time, some of the things I've seen when people say, here's a device, and it's just a brick. Yeah. And you think, I'm going to put that in my home? Yeah. I think not. So we spent a long time, even the texture of the materials that we use, but we ended up with this sort of sensor technology that is the size of a wafer sort of biscuit, if you like, that you eat with your coffee or something. Yeah. It's got some quite sophisticated technology and electronics in there, and some edge computing in there. But we deliberately designed it that way so that people actually wanted it, and actually wanted to have it and touch it and put it in the places they wanted to have in their homes. And then, of course, there's a collection unit as well that has got some edge computing on there, and it talks to all of the sensors. But more important, I think, overarching all of that is we want to make sure that all you need to do is just plug it in. You didn't need to set up to Wi-Fi, connect to a cloud server. You just plugged it in, and it somehow magically just connected either to the cloud or kept it locally, and it surfaced up information for you locally. And that's really hard. That's really
it's a user-centric approach, isn't it? Because otherwise you find technology companies sometimes so amassed in technology, they just think that everyone else is on the same wavelength as themselves. everyone's going to understand it. But the nature of it, I speak to a lot of companies and they trial out competitors' devices to see how they operate. And even tech-centric people are struggling, taking 30, 40, 50 minutes to set up a device.
Yeah.
And the normal person, myself, for example, I'd be gone. Half an hour, 20 minutes, that's it, I'm gone. Yeah. So you've obviously taken that legwork out of the customer having to do it, the tenant having to do it, so they're more adaptive to the technology. Have you found any constraints? Have you found anyone that maybe wasn't so keen to have extra tech in the house?
It's one of the hypotheses that we started with, one of the beliefs that we had, was that the Internet of Things won't really take off until people trusted the technology and trusted that actually it's not spying on them. This idea that it's spooky. And it was really important, because as soon as we talked about monitoring your home, the very first thing that people said was, all right, you're going to be listening to what happens. Yeah. And because I think people have heard news around, as a tenant, they want to know how many people are actually in the house. Right. They want to know if I'm growing, the wrong type of things in my house. And we had to be really, really clear on that. No, we're not recording voice. The data stays at the edge. You decide what you want to share, and that it took a bit of time. And there's some people, and I think most of us, we buy an Alexa or a Echo or whatever it may be, and we sign up for the terms and conditions. You just click and off it goes. And until somebody actually says, by the way, you do realise that by doing that, I can now do this, and this.
When I see an article online saying that Alexa's been listening to me and it knows what I enjoy probably more than what my partner knows what I like. So
that's a difficult conversation to have. But I think it's. So what we did there is we deliberately created experiments with people, and we said to them, look, here's a questionnaire. Do you use Facebook? Yes, I do. Do you use Alexa? Yes, I do. All these different things. And what's your attitude to security? And how do you make sure it's secure? And people were on a bit of a spectrum that, yes, I read every single privacy notice to I'll just tick the box and off I go.
Yeah.
And we did this experiment where we had these sensors in the houses, and they're very, very high frequency. They take a lot of data, and it's very granular, very very what's the word? High fidelity data. We took that data, and then we went to everybody and said, look, you said that you were happy with all your data going to the cloud. And I said, right, here, I can tell exactly when you've had a bath and how long you've had it for. And I can kind of estimate whether it's just you there.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, oh, wow, okay. I think I may need to change my options around what I actually want to share.
Yeah.
And so that, you're right, the whole piece around adoption and being fearful and the hurdles to it, we try to tackle that straight on, head on.
Yeah, and actually work with them to say, this is actually what we know about you so far.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it all just stays under the radar, doesn't it? Other companies, big companies, corporations would never share, this is what we already know about you. All they're going to do is market your data and essentially sell to you what they know you already like.
Yeah.
And how many houses are you already in with this?
So we're 30 houses at the moment. We're gearing up for 200 in September.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of work with the 30 just to do a lot of user research, because we understand what their motivations are, and also to help us label some of the features in the data so that we can do the AI around it. Of course, a set of 30 isn't a massive set, but as we go to 200 and then as we go to 1,000, we'll be continually, if like, improving the machine learning and the AI that comes from that as well.
Yeah. I think one point on which I spoke with you about when we grabbed a coffee was, I suppose, the end goal. So, you mentioned you're working with Leeds Council at the moment.
Yeah.
You're in 20 houses, looking to times it by 10 pretty soon.
Yeah.
So it's collecting all this data around the humidity, etc., detecting the problems. But, I think myself and I understand there's an issue, isn't there, in communications between tenants of council houses and the councils themselves.
Yeah, and that's a really, everyone's seen the news. It's not just, councils, it's private rented, private landlords as well, but that whole sector around social housing and renting because I've got 3 kids, 3 boys, and all of them are going to university. 2 of them have already been, and they're places where
they've already passed the horror stories back to the dad.
And you think, and these are So I think we all know those stories. But I think one of the things that when we've been speaking to not only Leeds but other councils as well and other housing associations, and I think for a long time there's been a bit of a the tenant is just a thing called a tenant, and you tell them to open a window, they should open a window.
Yeah.
The tenant looks at a landlord that says, well, it's your duty to do things. What we try to do is take a different approach that says, well, by telling someone to open a window, it may be that actually they don't actually have a window in their bathroom.
Yeah.
You can't just have this generic advice.
One shoe fits all.
Yeah. You can't do that. And sometimes saying to people, look, increase your heating. It may be that they like it cold because they've got a medical condition that if they get too warm, then it exacerbates it. So how do you find a way of taking that person and their lifestyle and their needs and their wants and their capabilities of actually doing these things? Because not everybody can paint a ceiling and go up on the ladder. How do you take all of that, but also, if you like, the pulse of the home, and combine the two things so you can actually surface not just data, but actually advice. Yeah. And say, do this, see if it changes. And that's what we're doing. It's that, we do measure the home, if you like, and how it's performing. But the important bit is the AI that then surfaces up to say, actually, for you, Charles, I think you should try and do these things and see if it works. And if it does work, you'll see actually that the condition of the home would be changing. Yeah. If you can't do it, don't worry. Then there's some help that we can provide you.
Yeah. And if I do it and it doesn't work, then
if it doesn't work, then there's help to see whether there's something else that could work. But it's always that. It's almost one of the guys I know that through the pandemic, when it comes to going and seeing a doctor, it's really hard now.
Yeah.
So for me, I've got asthma, and I know that at some point it was pretty bad. And you ring the doctor and they don't say come in anymore. It's like, oh, try this and try that and see if it doesn't, I'll come in. It's almost a similar sort of thing that we're trying to achieve here, where there are some general things that you can do. There's some things that you may need a little bit more help with. And there's some things that actually you can't do yourself. You're going to have to get the people in their vans to rock up and do something about it. Yeah. But at every point, what we're trying to do is break it down into things that is no cost, low cost, high cost, easily done, difficult to do, and trying to capture all of that. So it actually is tailored to the person.
Yeah, because you mentioned before we started this pod how many people are actually in a position where money's a big thing, isn't it? Yeah. Money's always in the back of their mind, and if there's smaller steps they can take before sort of committing to something which is costly, time consuming as well, maybe for them, but having people in the house, and if your data can give them maybe a way out, I think is the term I'm looking for, to say, look, let's try these simple things. I know you mentioned before that if the resident has to put their heating on more, it's not actually a cost to them.
Well, there's some there's starting to emerge. Housing authorities and some other partners are starting to think of ways to encourage tenants to put their heating on, or to recognise that actually just raising it by a couple of degrees is cheaper to maybe subsidise or give some incentive to the tenant than it is to send a van round in 3 months' time when it goes horribly wrong. Yeah. So there is this idea, and we're still exploring that as well, that for instance, on the prepay cards, we started to think about, well, if somebody really does need help, wouldn't it be simpler just to top up their prepaid card and actually you can see that the temperature just does go up and they feel better and the house is feeling better as well, and that probably costs you 20 quid for the month. Yeah. It's a lot cheaper than getting a repairs van turning up with two people. I mean, that's going to cost you £200 just to do that. Yeah. So we're thinking about that, and we want to be able to talk to some energy companies around that. We do know that there's some energy companies now are thinking about how they can do as much as they possibly can to put people on what they call these priority services registers, so that people, if they've got a need for electricity and electricity goes out, that they're on the priority register to get help from the distribution company. What we're starting to think about is there something where, if somebody really is this idea of fuel poverty, if they really do want to, if there is a difference that can be made, and all it takes is a little bit of funding to do that, maybe, I'm not sure, we haven't spoken to the energy companies yet, maybe there's something there, we're not quite sure, but if any energy companies are listening,
see what clicks. You heard it here first. And what's your plans then? You sort of touched on the growth elements there, and maybe some avenues you can go down. I know you've got some interesting conversations lined up to grow as a business, obviously exciting times. Do you know what the next 12, 24, 36 months might entail for the guys at Aware Technologies?
Well, I think the great thing about the team, it's quite a diverse team. So we're from different parts of the world, different languages, different cultures, different backgrounds, the whole thing. And some of the team members are, we've got a couple who are AI professors at university. One of them he's very much garden shed, electronics engineering, and that's what he wants to do. And I think at the moment, what I've said to everybody is, like, what do you want? Mm-hmm. One of the guys said, I just want to open up a university in Pakistan so I can teach kids the beauty about mathematics. You go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Another guy said, all I want to do is just get some dogs and just walk with them all day.
Yeah.
So
I think I'd be more aligned to that one.
Yeah. And I know it's not a very robust business plan. To say, but for me that's really important, because I need to start to understand, well, the very most important part of the business is the culture of the business. I've said that the whole diversity is in there, but also you've got young and very old me. But I think what we've discovered, what we can do in electronics and mathematics and research and empathy and ethics, I don't really know exactly what the next 12 months looks like. I know what the next 6 months looks like. We need to get to a point where we can start surfacing some of this advice, and we're nearly there. But at the moment, it's about talking to people and saying, this is what we're doing. Where can we go with it? I can't confess to know what the next 24 months, because I think what I've realized is that we're doing something that's quite new, and I don't think a model exists for it. And so I'm just enthusiastic about talking about it and getting some advice. Sort of, I suppose that whole networking feel, isn't it? I think it's nice. It's great to do something face to face, because for coming up to a year and a half or so now, we've been trapped indoors. Virtual coffees are great. I love a virtual coffee, but when you've sent the invite out, somebody texts you or drops you a message saying, I can't get into the lobby. It's an absolute nightmare. And I know you had problems getting into our lobby today, but it's a different thing. I got you there. It was easy to diagnose, and it's just hands-on. But I just think things like this podcast, LinkedIn's a great place now for networking, isn't it? And I suppose if there is any budding young entrepreneurs listening, would you have any advice that you can just pass across to say, this is how I got off the ground and I think an easy area? I think so many people say it, but have courage in that conviction. If swimming against the tide is what you need to do, you need to do it. Mm-hmm. And the enthusiasm is infectious. 2-3 years ago, it was just me and one other person, but I managed to assemble a group of people who they are techie, or they are very deeply skilled, but the first thing that they all say is, I just love where we're going with this. And I think if you've got that passion for it, you've got to take it forward. Because everyone says, you may as well shoot for the stars, and you may as well. You may as well just go for it.
Exactly. If you're not passionate about the product, then how are you going to sort of sell that conviction to say this is a great product to use, great product to implement, and even work on and work with? Hence how you get smart people into a small company where it's early days.
Exactly. And even by taking that journey, even if you're going in a direction, as long as you've got that passion for it, that direction may change slightly, because it did for us, because we started off with what we're going to do. We're going to have this electronics that's going to be there for the cold chain delivery of goods. And then we thought, wait a minute, actually, there's a real problem over here. Let's apply it to that and let's see. And here we are now.
Yeah, nice. So it wasn't then the original concept, because I know if people check out your LinkedIn, which I'm sure they will, it's a crazy background of working with huge corporates, Orange, AT&T, so Arkiva as well.
Yeah,
right?
Arkiva,
I'm thinking, So sort of finishing up roughly with Arkiva, wasn't it? And maybe having that idea fresh in your mind to get involved in that sort of IoT ecosystem again. But yes, it's definitely a new concept. And how did you find it? I suppose, coming from these large organizations, big budgets, big pockets, to bootstrapping, and
it's large organizations are great, and I'm glad for my time there. And I think most people who have been working at large organizations and come out will say a similar thing. You learn very quickly the things that the market wants. You learn very quickly that it's not just a little widget that gets traction and selling. You've got to think about the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So what we've deliberately done is not just made a little technical thing, but it's the whole service that goes around it as well.
Yeah.
Right away from here's an envelope with the stuff in it. It gets delivered to the tenant's house, to them opening it up, to them putting it out, to spreading it out, to switching the little switch on, and then data all going to the platform, and then all the surfacing of information and putting a nice bow around that. So I think the experience with AT&T and Orange was great, because I was kind of at the cutting edge of some crazy technology.
Yeah.
But speaking to people who were just really passionate about creating a new future. And I think that, for me, was really good learning. And so anybody who's out there working for large organizations, just immerse yourself in it.
Yeah.
Just immerse yourself in... I'll give you a story. My eldest son, he did electronic engineering at Sheffield. And during lockdown, he managed to get a job doing some electronics with a company that do 5G and 6G base stations. And it wasn't exactly what he wanted to do. But I said, look, go into it, learn an absolute shed loads of stuff.
Yeah.
And he was just bouncing around doing some crazy things. He's now working for a software company in fintech. But a lot of what he learned there, I'm sorry for listeners, FPGAs, don't know, just Google it up. I think you probably know what FPGAs are.
Absolutely.
But he's taking some of that into this job with software engineering.
Right.
And it's a smaller team. It's a bit of a startup team as well.
Yeah.
But he's absolutely buzzing because he's learned so much.
Yeah.
And I think it's everywhere you are, wherever you find yourself, a large organization or small, it's about learning.
Yeah.
As much as you possibly can.
Yeah, great term there. You just said immerse yourself in the tech. It's just get involved, get hands-on, get exposure to as much as you can within that company, corporation, and pick up what you can.
Yeah.
So I suppose for us here, maybe pretty wrapped up, quite a nice punchy episode there to learn about all the work that you're doing. Yeah. But was there anything else that you wanted to cover?
No, it's really a pleasure. I think for me, it's just getting our story out there. Our story's changing.
Yeah.
Next week I'm on holiday, but I know that I'm probably gonna get some phone calls, and we're gonna have to slightly, align the plan slightly again. But we're learning all the time. But we are trying to come about September. We'll be launching. We are looking for housing associations and other councils to come on that story with us.
Yeah.
On that journey with us. So it'd be great to be able to speak to anybody who wants to be part of that. And hopefully we're making it as seamless and as easy as possible.
As people orientated, isn't it? Like exactly. You said, like what you've opened up on here, to see what power the homeowner still has, or the tenant still has on what data's being transferred, what you're getting, what they know. Is fantastic to find someone as open about their technology as you are there, and obviously as passionate about it as well. Yeah. So thank you very much.